Welcome to job number 27, the dream job. Film director, movie director, filmmaker. This was my dream job, and this is going to be hard for me because this is the one I wanted and still want. This is the thing I put all my eggs in this one basket, especially on this particular project. So this might be a little tough for me because, it's tough to talk about things that you really want. Maybe for some people it's not. But for me, I guess it's tough to talk about the stuff you really want. When I was in high school, there was a period of time in there where a lot of good movies were coming out. You had movies like Pink Floyd's The Wall. I don't know why that popped into my head. But also you had, Apocalypse Now. You had The Shining. And there were these two influences that you look back on and you're like, I'm not sure if that's such a great influence. Maybe I should have rethought my efforts. Maybe I should have checked my influences. But one of them was Eraserhead. David Lynch's Eraserhead. Went to go see that at the Pageant Theater, and that was just like the rest of the week had that movie kind of changed your reality. I've never seen a movie like it ever before or since, and it kind of expanded my mind about what movies could do to your head. And another movie that was influential was The Stuntman. Not that great of a movie, and Peter O'Toole plays this megalomaniac, egomaniac film director. And I'm like, that's kind of what I want to do. I want to control people in a malicious kind of offhand way. I mean, not really, but sheesh, that's what that movie was. But anyway, those were two kind of influential movies for me. And I'm like, hey, I want to make movies. And I made some films in high school and got an award, which is never a good sign because then you're like, hey, I'm talented. I can do this. Somebody gave me an award. So I decided to become a movie director, and I went to UCLA Film School. Got into UCLA Film School, which is apparently very difficult to get into, especially if you haven't got into it. If you get into it, it's like, oh yeah, I got into it. It's pretty easy. But if you don't get into it, it's super hard. At UCLA Film School, you have to do two projects, at least you did back then. One was Project 1 and Project 2, very, very creatively titled, the two projects. Project 1 was 8mm film, non-sync sound, which meant it was mostly silent. You'd use sound effects, things like that. But Project 2 was synchronized sound, so which is what we have right here, and it's no big deal. But back then, a level of technological achievement that was a lot more onerous than you might imagine. So I'm working at AVS, and I'm thinking about my Project 2, and our friends at AVS, they had just made this movie called Border Radio. And they shot it on weekends, they shot it on 16mm reversal film, and they were getting distribution, and their careers were made. I mean, they were going to have a career from this thing. And we're like, yeah. And so I talked to my friend Russ. I said, Russ, we should do that. And he says, that sounds good. Let's make a movie. Because that's what we like to do. We were both in film school, and we wanted to make movies, so we decided to make a feature. We're not going to mess around with some sort of 20-minute thing that's going to cost us a lot of money that's not going to have any future. We'd rather make a 2-hour-long movie that's going to cost us a lot of money and not have any future. But we didn't know that at the time. We were very excited. We had to raise money because making movies back then was expensive. We raised $75,000. Why? Because this book said so. We got a book, and we're like, okay, here, it's got some budgets here, a studio budget. And it's like, okay, a studio budget, how much is that? Oh, here's a low budget feature. And it says, it says $500,000. I don't know why we didn't raise $500,000 because we were college kids. I was 24 at the time, 24, 25. But I think the Border Radio, I think those guys raised about $75,000, and we're like, that's good enough for us. So we went to our friends and our family and our neighbors, and we got people excited. Everyone got to read the script. We'll talk about the script in a second. My sister Lucy and her coworker Dennis, they were instrumental in helping us raise this money, and they put a lot of their own money into it as well because they were excited about it. They were in Silicon Valley, making money selling multi-wire, and they thought there's got to be more to life than multi-wire. If you've ever seen *Halt and Catch Fire*, they were deep in that world, and they wanted to expand into movie making, and we were their vehicle. So they helped us raise this money, $75,000, which is a lot of money, and the timing was pretty good actually because the video stores had just exploded. Mom and pop stores, Blockbuster was coming out, and these places needed product on the shelves. Basically, you put out anything and wrapped it up in a VHS, shrink wrap, and people would watch it. It's hard to imagine because they're such a glut now, and they kind of give Well, obviously VHS, you can't even give that stuff away, but some of the early VHS tapes were selling for like $90 a pop. And before we could raise this money, we needed to have a script. And I wrote a script in Lou Hunter's advanced screenwriting class at UCLA called Sheila and the Brainstem, and with the goal of making this movie. It wasn't like, I'm going to write this thing and whatever's going to happen to it. It's like, no, this is the one we're going to make. And it was odd, and it was strange, and it owed a lot to Repo Man. A lot. I mean, you look at him now and it's just like, oh my gosh, you just ripped off Repo Man. But Repo Man's a good movie. I still like it. Obviously, since I wrote kind of a rip-off on it. But, paying an homage to Repo Man. I wrote it by hand in the booth at AVS. The AVS booths, I'd take my notebook in there and I'd write the script on pencil or pen or whatever was handy. And then I would type that on a typewriter, an IBM Selectric typewriter. Which, that's the only script I've ever written on a typewriter, because, man, you can't make changes. It's a pain in the butt to write on a typewriter. So we've got an idea, we've got a script, and we've got some money, and we've got the equipment. That's one of the reasons we did this through UCLA, was because we could use some of their equipment. Russ had a 16mm camera, so we could use that, but the sound stuff and all of the post-production things, a lot of the post-production stuff, we would use at UCLA, because it's our project too. And we're getting graded on it. Now we needed some actors. So we advertised in this thing called script breakdown services, where they break down your script into all the different parts and they send it out to all the talent agents. And then the talent agents send you headshots. And we received like over 400 headshots. Just piles and piles of these headshots of these people. We're like, yes, no. It was a big cast. We had 6 main characters because it was kind of an ensemble. It was an ensemble movie. Which, it seems crazy. It's like, yeah, I'm going to make a ensemble feature. I mean, studios are nervous about making ensemble features because so many things can go wrong. And we would have auditions in the church there at UCLA, at the UCLA Institute, and you'd get this. I remember a porn star, she came to audition, and so you're interviewing this porn star there at the church. And a friend of mine, Christian, from high school, he was also a filmmaker, and he knew what we were up to, and he said, I asked him if he knew any good actors, and he goes, yeah, there's these 2 guys up here in Berkeley that are really good. And so we drove up to Berkeley, and we saw Terry and Rick in Rhinoceros, and man, were they good. And so we talked to them, and they're like, yeah, we are on board to move down to Los Angeles for a month. I think Rick's parents live there, and we'll live with Rick's parents, and we'll be there for 6 weeks while we're shooting. And we had tons of people were just giving up. People gave up so much and sacrificed up so much for this movie. It's just amazing to me because it's just amazing. It was fantastic, that part of it. So we got our actors, and the day before production, I kind of had this perfect moment. A perfect moment of illusion. Here was the moment. I'm driving a convertible Jaguar, a Jag, through Pacific Palisades, and there's a blonde model sitting next to me, and the very next day, I'm going to be starting to direct a movie, my dream job. Why is it an illusion? Well, the girl sitting next to me, she was my girlfriend, but she was also a nanny. And it was her boss's car that we were in. He was an attorney for Marvel. Well, they would let her borrow the car, and I was driving it. And the movie was, it wasn't a big studio feature. But I felt like I'd arrived. It was like, this is what it feels like to be in Hollywood. And it was an illusion, because so much of Hollywood is an illusion. I guess it kind of fits in. So every morning of production, we shot for mostly on the weekends, for 4 to 6 weeks. We took a week off during spring break and went to the Mojave Desert and shot there for a week. Put everyone up in the Motel 6 in Mojave. And when I say everyone, I mean there was 15 of us in 2 rooms. People sleeping on the floor. It's college. People just do that kind of stuff. But I would wake up every morning of this production just sick to my stomach, thinking my first thought was, what is going to go wrong today? Because everything can go wrong on a production. And when I mean everything, I'm mostly talking about cars. We had 2 cars. One of them was a convertible station wagon, which we actually bought a station wagon and cut the top off. Jim Weeda cut the top off with my brother-in-law Bill Dutcher, because that's what somebody wrote in the script. Some idiot wrote, 3 punk rockers drive around in a convertible station wagon. Yikes. And then we also had a Plymouth Valiant that was kind of smashed up and had no gas cap. I don't know why we didn't just go buy a gas cap. Instead, we would just stick a rag in it. The rag would get soaked, or there's shots in the movie where the car's going around a turn and there's just gas pouring out of the gas can. I don't know what we were thinking. Just go buy a gas can. I think we tried, but it was difficult because it was an old 1963 Plymouth. But eventually we got one. So we always had car troubles. Like the brakes would fail or the transmission line would get, would blow up on us and we'd have to get the transmission fixed. Or for some reason the gearbox wouldn't work. And one time we were going to Gridley, and it was 450 miles to Gridley from Los Angeles. And the car had no headlights. The Plymouth Valiant had no headlights. And we rode that whole thing. We started off at like 6 o'clock, and then by 9 o'clock, we're driving in the dark. Luckily, there was someone in front of me, and I'm driving behind them, and I would just drive behind them really close, and they were basically my lights. And we drove up through on the 99, but there were so many police officers on that, we got stopped like twice. And they said, "Oh, you're driving without headlights." And we're like, "Oh yeah, but it'll be fine. No ticket just yet." And then so I go, "We need to switch over to the 5." And so we drove up the 5, and we made it all the way to Yuba City at 4 o'clock in the morning. And this police officer pulls us over, and he goes, "You don't have a gas cap, and you don't have any lights." Yeah, but we're just going to Gridley. He goes, "No, you're not. You're parking that thing right here on the side of the road." So luckily when we got to Gridley, I talked to the police chief and he took care of it all. And we actually went to a gas station and actually got a gas cap and they fixed the lights. We also had stunts. We rented a helicopter, which was fantastic. Russ is, for the first opening shot, we have this helicopter scene helicopter shot coming down. My dad's playing this old bum on the side of the road and the brainstem smacks into the ground. That was fun. I think Russ had fun with that helicopter. We also smashed through a gate. We had to build this gate, and then we smashed through it. We blew up stuff. I learned about, Fuller's Earth that would blow up and make a big plume of dirt. Lit a car on fire. We're out in the desert, and we're lighting this car on fire. We're just getting ready to light this car on fire. We're out there shooting, and we don't have any permits or anything, or even permission. We're just out in the desert somewhere shooting, and this helicopter, a military helicopter, comes and lands right by us. Like, what's going on? And he comes in, he goes, "What are you guys doing?" And we go, "Oh, shooting a student film." He goes, "Oh, okay." He goes, "Okay, we're testing a drone here." And these aren't the little small drones. They were testing a big plane drone. He goes, "We're testing a drone out here today. So if it starts to come towards you like it's going to crash, you guys might want to move. Thanks for the tip." And we actually did see the drone, but it didn't crash. Some of the locations we shot in Los Angeles, we shot in San Diego, we shot in San Pedro, a jail cell in San Pedro. We shot these campfire scenes in Malibu, and in the distance you could hear the seals at night, and they're supposed to be in the middle of Nebraska or something. We shot in Hollywood at Club Lingerie, and this is kind of with Club Lingerie was this club in Hollywood, and we'd go there and I'd seen we see lots of bands there. Ironically, the owner's mother lived in Gridley, my hometown of 5,000 people. And so my brother got in contact with the mother, and then she got in contact with her son, and he let us shoot at the Club Lingerie. I don't think he charged us anything. We just saw on a Sunday afternoon, and we shot the Club Lingerie. I mean, what are the chances of the Club Lingerie's owner living in Gridley? We shot in Bakersfield. We shot in Arvin at the 7-Eleven there. Oildale with the Friendly Cafe, the best breakfast I've ever had, just ginormous breakfast. Reseda, Van Nuys. We shot in Beaumont, where we recreated an old-timey gas station. And don't forget Mojave. We shot in Sacramento, just outside of Yuba City, and we also shot in Gridley. And my dad was the mayor at the time, and we wanted to use the police cars to stage a chase scene. And so we got permission, and we shut off downtown, which was not big. But we were able to use 2 police cars, and for the entire day, we didn't have to pay anything. This was great. And the police chief, he said beforehand, the night before, we're going over what we're going to require. And he goes, "Do you guys need to smash up a car or anything?" We're like, "Why?" He goes, "I just impounded a car, and you can smash. I'll sell it to you for $200, and you can smash it up, do whatever you want with it." Unfortunately, we didn't have any way to smash that up, or we weren't thinking enough. But that would have been fun to smash that up. Lots of great stories. This is, every time I think about this when I'm watching the movie itself, I could tell a story about it. But one that kind of stands out is Russ and I were going to get some sound. We're going to get some sound out in the desert. because it's hard in Los Angeles, hard to get clean sound, and it wasn't like today where you had all these digital audio libraries of all these different sounds. To get sound was, oh geez, it was a nightmare. But anyway, so we're going to go out to Mojave where we can get some clean engine sound. So we start off early on a Sunday morning, and we're driving up through Westwood there. And as we pull onto the on-ramp, I look behind us, like 4 police officers shut the on-ramp behind us. I'm like, that's strange. And then as we pull into the freeway, 2 more police officers on motorcycles come in front of us and shut off the next on-ramp. I'm like, wow, that's kind of weird. And then we're driving for a little bit longer, and I realized that we're the only ones on the freeway. And the president's in town, and they're shutting down the freeway because the president's in town. So sure enough, I look in my rearview mirror, and there's the presidential motorcade on this empty freeway except for us. And I know that there's no more exit signs for like a mile or two as we get over the Sepulveda Pass. And I'm like, wow, this is kind of fun. And I go, well, I'll just slow down and they can pass us. So I go from, going 70 or something to 60 and then to 50, and they just slow down and they keep that distance. So then I think, oh, I wonder how slow they'll go. So on the freeway, I get down to 30 miles an hour, just crawling, and they slow down to match my pace. And so this might be the only independent feature film that actually slowed down a president. Sorry, President Reagan, we slowed you down. Russ is kind of freaking. I'm like, well, just tell him we're having car trouble. Sheesh. Post-production was a whole nother situation. I think I might stop it here and give everything a break. Everyone a break. How much further do we have to go here? This thing is long. I'm going to stop it.